Good evening, I'm John Batchelor. Thaddeus McCotter, WJR, the great voice of the Great Lakes, my colleague and co-host, and we're joined immediately by Chairman Devin Nunes, Chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Chairman Nunes issued in these last hours a statement compiling all that we have at this moment, understanding of these attacks, the threat of the Orlando attack, the possible future attack like Orlando. Congressman, a very good evening to you. Thank you for this. First of all, Orlando is overwhelming, and yet it is a pattern that you at the committee have seen before. What can we learn from this? What does the future look like for us this summer, and especially in Ramadan these next days? Good evening.
Thanks, John and Thaddeus. It's great to be back on with you. It's just like old times again. This is a very difficult subject because the intelligence community has been predicting this now for over a year and a half, especially as many terrorists Westerners started to go in and fight with terrorists in Syria and Iraq and come back out. And then as technology continues to change and people can chat online but in encrypted chat rooms, you had kind of the intersection of ISIS being talked about, radical jihad being talked about all over the globe, it becoming popular as they kept on taking on more and more territory and knocking down governments. And then at the same time, wannabes all over the world, especially in this character's case, somebody who actually wanted to practice jihad and who had talked about practicing jihad, he found a way to get up to speed and then obviously found a way to do it. And this attack looks very similar to the attack that occurred at the Paris concert hall, where you have a dark room, loud music, into the night, very easy to hit lots of soft targets, and it's just an awful situation. But I'm just afraid as this continues, we're going to continue, if ISIS continues and Al-Qaeda continues to grow, these attacks are going to become the norm, which is what I'm afraid of.
Thaddeus.
Well, Devin, isn't it true also that these despicable, heinous acts, the more successful they are, the more copycats and emulators arise, isn't it? That's part of the problem.
That's right. That is the real concern, Thaddeus. That's why I made the comparison to the Paris attacks. I was just over there about a month ago and walked through with law enforcement how the attack occurred. And it really wasn't very difficult to do. And so once that was out there in the news, it looks like this guy just copied it.
Congressman, is the FBI frustrated when they come before your committee? Do they throw their hands up and say there's only so far we can go given our understanding of the enemy and that we're playing defense here and not offense there?
Well, the FBI has been very, very clear, John. I even went on your show, I think over a year ago, and warned of these types of attacks.
Summer of 2015, yes, you did.
And the reason that I did that is because the FBI and the other people within our intelligence community were coming in and briefing us with their hair on fire, saying, "Look, this has got to stop. We're becoming overwhelmed because there's so many threats that are out there, and especially as I mentioned earlier with the technology development of encryption, it's just becoming harder for." If you open an investigation on someone, good luck if they're talking in an encrypted chat room to somebody in Raqqa in Syria. It's just going to be difficult to know what they're talking about.
Thaddeus?
And Devin, as you know, there's obviously the consideration that we are a free society with constitutional rights and protections. And so there's always going to be the conundrum of how does a free society protect itself from evil people that are free in its midst.
That's right, and you have a lot of people who are now saying, well, why was this guy taken off of the watch list? Well, the guy was taken off the watch list because the FBI did a thorough investigation. They tracked down all the leads. They looked at all the different parameters. And I think at the end of the day, I'm sure we'll find out more about this, but they just thought, okay, this guy is a run-of-the-mill nut, like a lot of nuts that are out there, but he didn't seem at that time to be dangerous, so they took him off the watch list. And now you have a lot of people in Washington, D.C. saying, well, why did you take this guy off the watch list? Well, wait a second. If we could have thousands and thousands of people put on the watch list, and that's not fair to people's civil liberties and rights as Americans. Just because you have one nutcase doesn't mean that anybody who ever gets investigated by the FBI should be on some watch list and never be able to move out of their house again.
Your statement today Mr. Chairman, the only way to guarantee our security is to eliminate the jihadist entire organizations and expel them from safe havens in which they operate. You mean going on the offense, and you mean going back to the region, and you mean going to Raqqa and Mosul. Is that the way to read this?
Well, it's actually broader than that. So, first of all, you have to have a president of the United States who acknowledges that, hey, there's a problem here, and is not going to tell the American people that, first of all, that there is no radical jihad or there is no radical Islam, and then continues to tell the American people that Al-Qaeda is on the run, that Osama bin Laden is dead and Al-Qaeda is on the run. The fact of the matter is, Al-Qaeda is larger than it's ever been. ISIS is larger than it's ever been. This is a generational war, one that we've been dealing with now for 15 years. This doesn't go away overnight. So I think our European friends are finding this out, and they're going to have to, when you look at putting together an entire strategy, the strategy has to be global. And the strategy has to be more than just Syria and Iraq. The strategy has to be North Africa. The strategy has to include our European partners. If we can cooperate with Russia, maybe it needs to, or if the Russians can cooperate with us, maybe it does need to involve Russia. But at the end of the day, this is not going to happen under this president right now. And I think, to be a little bit critical of the Congress, I think the Congress needs to have a new authorization of use of military force. But that takes a president and a Congress working together, declaring war on ISIS, declaring war on Al-Qaeda, bringing our partners all together to try to develop an overall strategy that looks at this over the long run, which is it's never been an easy war. It's not an easy war, and it's not going to be an easy war to win, but we definitely don't win if you never start.
Thaddeus?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Devin. It's a battle, a generational battle on a multifaceted front, and it involves kinetic energy, but the larger context of it is it's a battle between which way should people live, freely or not. It is that simple, back to the Cold War. My question to you is, when you talk about the next president, wouldn't you just settle for a president that knew that every act of terrorism was inherently hateful, and then an attack on one American's an attack on all, and that we have to move from that premise towards battling the enemy on this multifaceted front rather than trying to accommodate some political vision whereby everyone has to bow at the altar of, shall we say, inoffensiveness in what is really a situation where you can't simply cut off the head of an organized nation state like Nazi Germany. This is far broader than that, isn't it? Yeah,
that's right. I mean, this it's a movement, right? So it's this kind of asymmetrical war that President Obama has been trying to fight, which is take out a few leaders here and there. And the rules of engagement be so high that you can't take it makes it very difficult to do large-scale strikes, even in Syria and Iraq today, where you know that ISIS is all over and Al-Qaeda fighters are all over the place. You just can't you can't win the way that we've been conducting this war. It's not gonna work, and it starts with identifying the enemy to start.
Congressman Devin Nunes, California. He is the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Thaddeus McCotter, WJR, the great voice of the Great Lakes. I'm John Batchelor.